Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I know on the program it says, civil rights, voting rights, but I'm going to just make a few brief remarks. And so as we gather in this historic location during Black History Month, there are many related stories that run through my mind. I can remember as a kid, my dad would tell me, now he's 84 years old, he lives in Delaware. He used to set the bowling pins in the bowling alley in this building when he was a kid, living on the east side over near Guyer Street. My mom and dad are old school Howard High School graduates, which means that I'm the luckiest person in the world. And anybody whose parents are old school Howard High School graduates know what I'm talking about. Keith Booker was the president of the NAACP when I graduated from law school and came down here after they swore me in and said to Keith, I want to work with your branch. This is where we met, right here in this building. And there's a lot of things that have happened since that started from those meetings right here in this building, before we met and after we met. But I have a question for the young folks, but also for the older folks, because I just shared what I call Black history. I'm 55 as to what this location means to me, and others have shared what this location means to them. But what does this location provide and mean to the current day youth on the east side of Wilmington? Because you all are going to write that chapter one day as to what this institution means in the context of Black history. As I came down the street, it forced me to have to ask you all, is the Layton home open? So I asked each of the young folks to Google Layton home, Wilmington, Delaware, and read the history of the institution that's now a closed building down the street. But Google that for me. Please do that, so that you get an idea of what happens in generations where there are historical Black institutions, and then all of a sudden, they're no more. And so what I ask you young folks to do on your watch is to protect the important institutions of your community, because there's people coming behind you that are going to need those institutions. Now, I think what I better do is I better go ahead and get started before I get started. Yeah, let me get back on track. Founded February 12, 1909, the NAACP is the nation's oldest, largest, and most widely recognized grassroots-based civil rights organization. The NAACP was formed partly in response to the continuing horrific practice of lynching and the 1908 race riot in Springfield, Illinois. The violence that was committed against blacks and racial justice were among the many issues that were needed to be addressed. So that was a context for the creation of the NAACP. The NAACP's stated goal was to secure for all people the rights guaranteed in the 13th Amendment. That promised an end to slavery. The 14th Amendment, that promised equal protection of the law. And the 15th Amendment, regarding universal adult male suffrage. And so the NAACP's principal objective was to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of minority group citizens of the United States and to eliminate race prejudice. So the NAACP sought to remove all barriers of racial discrimination through the democratic processes. And that's important to note because there's many ways to bring about change. And so the NAACP chose to approach change through the current system that exists in this country. There's various ways you can bring about change. As we all are gathered here, the Wilmington, Delaware branch, which was chartered in 1915, is in its historic 100th anniversary year as we sit here. And so if you want to learn more about NAACP history, you can find it chronicled in books, articles, pamphlets, and magazines. But the true movement, they say, lies in the faces, the diverse, multiracial army of ordinary women and men from every walk of life, race, and class. And they united to awaken the consciousness of a people and a nation. And so just keep in mind as young folks, you may not have your NAACP membership, but you need to explore, go to the NAACP's website and explore not only the history, but explore what the NAACP is doing in the present and get your own membership so that you can guide what the NAACP does in the future. Because the NAACP does what the members have it do. So the NAACP will remain vigilant in its mission until the promise of America is made real for all Americans. Now there's another organization I want to mention. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice was created in 1957 by the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1957. And the purpose was to uphold the civil and constitutional rights of all Americans, particularly some of the most vulnerable members of our society. And so the division enforces a wide array of laws that protect the civil rights of all individuals. So again, as young folks, if you all were paying attention a few months ago, President Obama tried to put a person in charge of the Civil Rights Division. And there were people in America who didn't allow him to put a person in charge of the Civil Rights Division. The person that's in charge of the Civil Rights Division is the person who steps up to the table when stuff like Ferguson and New York take place. That's their job to make sure that that stuff stops. And so when you see people prevent there being a leader in those positions, the stuff that you're protesting about as young folks, that's one of the positions that really matters to what you're protesting about. But you have to know that. The Civil Rights Department of the United States Department of Justice is critical to the movement of young people for equality and justice with respect to the criminal justice system and other aspects as well. As I wind down, I want to remind you that last year we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that bill was designed to end racial discrimination and segregation in public accommodations, public education, and federally assisted programs. This year, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And I'm going to stop there because you don't know you should be clapping. That was the bill that provided direct federal intervention to enable African Americans to register and vote, and ban tactics long designed to disenfranchise African Americans. Unfortunately, there are still mechanisms and devices designed to disenfranchise African Americans. And one of the most significant ones is something called redistricting. And so I need you as young folks to Google redistricting, because it happens every 10 years. And so soon you will be the people who will be involved in the redistricting efforts. But you have to know what it is, because I'll bet you $1 million that the schools that you're in don't tell you about redistricting. And that's one of the mechanisms used to disenfranchise you. Look that up. In the year 2115, I want you to look down the road. People will look back on what is taking place right now, and they're going to write chapters about Black history. If a meaningful Black history is going to continue to be written, as it has been in the past and present, it is vital that organizations like the NAACP and Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice are properly supported. But more importantly, it's also vital that Black children are properly supported and provided appropriate educational opportunities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam. In 2012, the senior pastor at Canaan Baptist Church made history by becoming the first African American to be president of Newcastle County Council. So it's a great pleasure that I introduce the Reverend Dr. Christopher Thorne.